Hey everyone, I'm Noelia Reagan, and I will be presenting Spain, my country of study, today. Spain isn't just an academic topic for me, it's personal. My mother's Spanish, and I'm a Spanish citizen myself, and much of my worldview sits right between Spain and the United States. In this presentation, I'll walk you through how Spain's cultural patterns shape communication and how they compare to American norms, and what misunderstandings might happen between the two. I chose Spain because it's my home. My upbringing has always been bicultural. My mother's Spanish, and my father's from Fort Wayne. And I grew up navigating both systems. For my first project, I interviewed a relative, Maria del Pino, who moved from Spain to the United States in her late teens. She described the subtle things that stood out to her, not big dramatic cultural shocks, but everyday moments, how people would greet one another, how indirect or direct conversations felt, and even how neighbors interacted. So, my perspective throughout this presentation reflects not only research but lived experience. Here's a rundown of some basic facts. Spain has about 48 million people, and its identity is built on layers of history. The country spent 800 years under Moorish rule, Muslim rule, and you still see that influence in the food, architecture, and even the way cities are designed. Many churches were built directly over former mosques, which shows how cultures merge over time. The Palacio de Cibeles in the photo reflects that blend. It looks like a palace, but it's really a mix of old architectural styles and now serves as Madrid City Hall. Spain also has several co official regional languages, which adds even more cultural variety. But the official language is Spanish. And unlike the US, where people value privacy, Spain has a very community centered lifestyle, something my interviewee mentioned as a major difference. To understand Spanish communication, I'm using Hofstede's dimensions and Hall's ideas about context, time, and space. Spain is a high context culture, so people rely on shared history, tone, nonverbal cues more than direct wording. Concepts like face or saving face and indirectness show up in how Spaniards soften criticism and avoid public embarrassment. Even though Spain feels relaxed, it scores high in uncertainty avoidance, meaning people prefer clear rules beneath the surface. And strong collectivist tendencies, especially around family, shape how people relate. The Alcázar de Segovia reflects this layered identity, pictured here. Multiple influences blending together, just like the cultural patterns that shape how Spaniards communicate. In Spain, meaning often comes from the setting and the relationship, not just the words. Conversations are louder, more emotional, and usually happen in shared public spaces. People jump into their own conversations, use touch, overlap when talking. It's a style built on connection, not strict turn taking. This photo of my wife feeling the vibrations of a saxophone in El Retiro is exactly what Spanish communication feels like: expressive, sensory, and shared with the people around you. Communication is something you experience together. In contrast, in the United States, communication tends to stay more orderly and direct, with clearer boundaries between speakers. Hi, Blue. Are you trying to communicate something to me? You want to go outside? Okay. In the US, time is monochronic. You focus on one task, you stay on schedule, and punctuality shows respect. Spain is more polychronic, meaning time bends around relationships. People multitask socially, conversations stretch out, and long meals are part of the culture, not a delay. The image here of a man swimming captures that attitude. Leisure isn't something you squeeze in after work, it's woven into daily life. And in the Canary Islands, where my family's from, this relaxed rhythm is even stronger. Time moves with people, not the other way around. When you compare Spain and the United States through Hofstede's dimensions, a few differences stand out. Spain has higher power distance, so people generally expect more hierarchy in schools, workplaces, and daily interactions. Spain is also high in uncertainty avoidance, which explains why people like the clear rules, even though the lifestyle feels relaxed. And while both countries are individualistic, Spain is more family oriented and relational. The pigeon flying straight at me in this photo makes me laugh because it matches Spain's overall feel, a little unpredictable, energetic, and always happening right in front of you. Meanwhile, the US tends to prefer more structure and predictability. Spain is technically an individualistic country, but daily life is much more family centered than in the US. Discussions and decisions often involve parents, cousins, or grandparents, and support comes through time spent together rather than verbal encouragement. Spain is technically an individualistic country, but daily life is much more family centered than in the US. Decisions often involve parents, cousins, or grandparents, and support comes through time spent together rather than verbal encouragement. The idea of face also plays a role. People try to avoid embarrassing others or creating public conflict. So feedback is softened and harmony matters. The photo here is of my wife and my family on a hike, which shows what that might look like in real life. Family isn't a separate part of your week, it's the center of your daily life. And that closeness shapes how Spaniards communicate with each other. Spain scores high in uncertainty avoidance, which means people feel more comfortable when explanations are clear. Even though everyday life can feel relaxed, the systems underneath, like paperwork, procedures, social rules, are very structured. The party sign in the photo represents the preference for consistency and clarity. Whether it's language, traffic rules, or public services, Spain relies on clear guidance to reduce uncertainty. The US, by contrast, tends to accept more improvisation and flexibility in how things get done. Nonverbal communication plays a huge role in Spain. People stand closer, use more physical touch, and rely heavily on facial expression and gesture to convey emotion. Personal space is much smaller than what most Americans are used to. The women in this Romeria photo show that perfectly. Leaning in closely, completely comfortable, sharing space, that closeness signals warmth and connection, not intrusion. In the US, people tend to keep more distance and rely more on verbal clarity than on physical cues. When you compare Spain and the US, you can see the cultural differences right in the environment. Spain's plazas are designed for gathering, talking, and staying. Social life naturally spills into public spaces. Communication feels spontaneous and expressive because people are constantly interacting face to face. The US, shown here with the Memphis trolley, is built around efficiency and movement. Spaces are structured to keep people going where they need to go, not to stop and socialize. So Spain's communication is more relational and warm, while American communication tends to be more task focused and organized. When Spaniards and Americans interact, their communication styles can clash in predictable ways. A Spaniard's closeness or touch might feel too personal to an American, while an American's directness can sound blunt or even rude to someone from Spain. Time expectations also differ. What feels flexible and normal in Spain can feel late or disorganized in the US, and views on authority can vary, which can lead to confusion about how honest or formal to be. This photo of me signing maybe while my wife tries to figure out what I mean captures the idea. Two people reading the same message differently. Cultural styles shape interpretation, not intention. Successful communication between Spaniards and Americans means adjusting to each other's style. For Americans in Spain, the key is to build the relationship first, be flexible with time, expect more emotion and physical closeness, and soften feedback so it doesn't come across too harsh. For Spaniards in the US, it helps to expect more direct communication and stricter schedules. Providing clear, detailed information is appreciated, and punctuality is a sign of respect. The image of the deaf orca and its longtime trainer represents the idea that communication works best when both sides learn each other's cues and adapt. It's not about changing who you are, just understanding the cultural rhythm you're stepping into. Melanara Beach in this photo captures what Spain feels like to me: layered, reflective, and shaped by its history. Spain and the US share many values, but they express them differently. How people use time, how close they stand, and how direct they speak, even how much context they rely on. Understanding those deeper patterns makes cross cultural communication smoother and more meaningful. Thanks for watching my presentation. As a final note, all photographs in this presentation were taken by me. I intentionally used my own images to ensure that the cultural concepts I discussed were grounded in real environments and authentic moments. My photography approach is documentary in style. I capture scenes as they naturally unfold, whether in Madrid, the Canary Islands, or during everyday interactions. Each image was selected to reflect a specific aspect of Spanish communication or cultural behavior. Using my own work allowed me to present Spain not just as a set of theories, but as a lived experience observed through my lens. Thank you so much, and I hope you've learned something from this presentation.